We can divide all people into three groups. One group is about to face a problem. One group is right in the middle of a problem, and another group is coming out of a problem. All of us will fit into one of those three categories. Either we're about to face a new problem, or we're right in the middle of a problem, or we are trying to come out, or we're on the way out of a problem. We end up giving some kind of response, reacting in some way to these problems, to these challenges in life. We end up dealing with them in some way. The question is, how? There is a Christian way of responding to adversity and suffering. The New Testament teaches it very clearly, again and again in various places. This is what we began to see from an important passage. Let's go there again. James chapter 1. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds. For you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. If you're in the middle of a trial, even if this makes sense to you, even if you understand it, even if you get it, right, and even if you want to accept it, actually putting into practice, it's still difficult because there are several practical hindrances. He recognizes the practical difficulties associated with that. And therefore, what does he do? In the next verse, he addresses that. Verse 5. After giving us the Christian way, look at verse 5. If any of you lacks wisdom, everybody say wisdom. If any of you lacks, why does he talk about wisdom next? And he says, here's the problem. We lack wisdom. Why we are not able to take the Christian way and actually put it into practice is we lack wisdom. So we're going to look at wisdom, not wisdom in general, but wisdom in the midst of trials, wisdom in the midst of suffering, wisdom in the midst of problems. Why are we not able to count it all joy even after we understand, even after we get it? We have to know the truth and then count it joy. Well, I'll tell you the reason simply. Maybe several reasons. One important reason is we are not that happy about the ending. The ending is good, but it's not that good according to some people. The ending is good, but is it good enough to cross all the obstacles? Is it good enough? Is it worth it to endure so much pain and hardship and all this for that? In the end, for my inward character to be developed and come to perfection. People generally place a premium on, in their mind, what is their goal? They just want to go to a place that's, where all their needs are met, where it's comfortable, or, where they're safe, secure, safety, security. These are the kinds of things that people want. That's their goal. And that's fine, that's good, that's necessary. But the world also has that goal. Then what is the difference between them and us? The difference is, in addition to those goals, for us, it's not just safety, security, abundance, blessing. It's not just those things. In addition to that, there ought to be a premium placed on the development of inward character. How much value do we place on that? The New Testament places a very high value. Let me take you to 2 Peter chapter 1. Let me just show you this. It's amazing how different places in the Bible teach very similar things. And here's an example. Let's read 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 3 onwards. Verse 3 onwards. As his divine power has given to us all things that pertain to life and godliness through the knowledge of him who called us by glory and virtue, by which have been given to us exceedingly great and precious promises, that through these you may be partakers of the divine nature, having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust. It's an amazing opening here. What he's saying is, God's divine power has given to us all things that pertain to life and godliness through his knowledge, and he called us by glory, and he's given us exceedingly great and precious promises. Why? For what purpose? Then only he mentions the purpose. He's done all this, called us, given us promises and this and that for this purpose, that through these you may be partakers of the divine nature. Everybody say divine nature. Notice nature, divine nature. What is he talking about? He's saying the purpose why God called you, saved you, gave you promises, this and that, the higher purpose for this is so that you will become a partaker of divine nature. That means you will become in nature more and more like God. That's what it means. you will actually partake of the divine nature. And then he explains that. Keep reading. Having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust. Then verse 5. But also for this very reason, giving all diligence, add to your faith virtue, to virtue knowledge, to knowledge self-control, to self-control perseverance, to perseverance godliness, to godliness brotherly kindness, and to brotherly kindness love. You see what he's done here? All those qualities are inward qualities. Did you notice that? He talked about partaking of the divine nature, and then he's explaining that. He's saying, add to your faith. You have faith, but it's not enough. Add to your faith virtue. Add to your faith kind of fortitude, a courage. Right? Faith you have, but keep adding to it. Add courage, virtue, and then add knowledge to that. And then to that knowledge add self-control. All of them inward qualities. And then to that add perseverance, what James talked about. And then to that add godliness, and then to that add brotherly kindness, and then to that add love. Keep adding. Don't be where you are. Don't stay stagnant. Keep adding, keep growing. Where? On the inside. These are inward qualities that speak of a person's character, nature. He's saying inside you need to become more and more and more like God. Keep adding. And then look at verse 8. For if these things, these inward qualities are yours, if these things are yours and abound. Everybody say they're mine and they must abound. If these things are yours and abound, you will neither be barren nor unfruitful in the knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. What he's saying is, for the knowledge of Jesus Christ to be fruitful, you need to have these qualities and you need to abound, keep growing in them. What that means is, what is the use of knowing Jesus Christ, following Jesus Christ, if you don't have and grow in these qualities? That's like a tree not having fruit. That's like a barren land. What is the use? Nothing is happening there. It's not how it's supposed to be. You see, another passage quickly, Colossians chapter 3. What I'm trying to say is, the New Testament places a very high premium value on the development of our inward nature, character. We need to become more and more like Jesus Christ. We need to become more and more like the divine nature. This is very important to God, you know. And those who have wisdom will realize that. Colossians 3, verse 12. If you look in Colossians, in verse 5, Paul says, remove these things from your life, or put to death, he says, verse 5, put to death all the filthiness and all this thing, and he gives a list there. In verse 8, again he says, put off all these things. Put off means take it off. Right? And then in verse 12, he talks about put on these things. Everybody say put on. Tamil, as well as I think the original, also has the notion of putting on clothes, like clothe yourself. Clothe yourself. Put on what? Put on all these layers of clothing. What to put on? Verse 12. Therefore, as the elect of God, holy and beloved, put on tender mercies, kindness, humility, meekness, long-suffering, bearing with one another, forgiving one another. If anyone has a complaint against one another, even as Christ forgives, so you also must forgive. For above all these things, put on love, which is the bond of perfection. See that? Perfection. If you see again this whole list I read, every one of them is inward quality. Did you see that? Look at the list again. Tender mercies. Everybody say tender mercies. Kindness. Humility. Meekness. Long-suffering. Bearing with one another. Forgiving one another. But above all these things, put on love. Peter also taught the same thing. He says, keep adding, adding, adding. Paul says, keep putting on, putting on, putting on. And above all, finally put on love, which is the bond of perfect. The New Testament idea of perfect, the way it's meant to be, the ideal goal for the Christian, has to do a lot with the inside development. So James has this wisdom, right? This is not a worldly wisdom. This is a biblical wisdom. This is a New Testament. This is a Christian wisdom. This is a wisdom where you understand what's important to God and you give that importance. Right? This is a wisdom where you understand that even though the world has its own goals, your goals are not just like the world's goals. Your goals are God's goals. And for God, it's very important that you become more and more like this, perfect in character. Only those who are excited about this destination will count it joy, knowing that this path leads them to that great destination. The one with true wisdom knows that it's great. He gets it, he realizes it, he's convinced of it. To the extent that we value the perfecting of our inward character, to that extent alone will we be able to count it all joy. To the extent that we value this ending, the perfecting of our inward character, to that extent only we can count it all joy. There's no mystery to this. That's it. There are many other things. But I'm saying, in a way, it's simple. Do we value it or not? And if we value it, that shows we have wisdom. If we don't value it, it shows we lack in wisdom. We all see it as great, but the question is, do we see it as worth the trouble? Do we see it as worth it to go through whatever it takes? That's the question. If we can't see it that clearly, if we're not convinced, if we don't get excited about it like James does, count it all joy, my brothers, knowing this is going to such an amazing ending. If you can't get that excited about it, it shows we lack in wisdom. We are like a child spiritually. To be wise is to see the true value of things, to have the right goals, to desire the right things, and to get excited about the right things. The problem then is we lack wisdom. Now, this is just one point I took and showed you how the root problem here is lack of growth, lack of wisdom. But let me mention another one, just describe it briefly and move on. Another case where I can show you how it's a lack of wisdom that's the problem. Because we lack wisdom only, the troubles of life seem meaningless sometimes, unnecessary, and such a waste. Have you felt like that? All of us feel like that at some point or the other, don't we? Feel like it's so much trouble necessary, It's just such a waste. What is the meaning of all this? Why should I go through all this? What a waste. Now, I understand that out of frustration, we speak like that, we think like that, we're irritated, we're angry, all that is valid and understandable. But the thing is, that is contrary to divine wisdom. Because, this again, see, God's wisdom, divine wisdom says, divine wisdom is basically understanding the ways of God, understanding how God operates, understanding how God sees things, and God never sees anything as a waste. God will never waste your pain. God will make sure that no hardship you ever go through, no pain you ever endure is a waste. He will make sure to use everything for the fulfillment of His greater purposes and greater glory. God will make sure. Again, let me clarify. We're not saying God is giving you the pain or God is giving you the whatever problem. No, we're saying the problem comes. There are reasons why problems and hardships and sufferings come. There are other sin. The sin is a reason. Devil is a reason. We live in this world. There are so many reasons. But problems come. There are other reasons. But God doesn't stand by and watch as they come and just, run out or run all over you and turn you into nothing and go. Where it just becomes meaningless and unnecessary and a waste. God will not stand by watching like that. God will make sure, say it again, God will make sure that no problem you ever face, no pain you ever endure, no hardship that you ever go through becomes a waste. He will take it all and He will turn it and He will use it and He will, fulfill His greater purposes. He will bring something good out of it for His glory and for your good. That's seeing things with the eyes of wisdom. But seeing pain and hardship as a waste, while we understand the frustration of people, what it shows is the deeper problem there is a lack of wisdom, a lack of divine wisdom, an inability to see things from God's perspective, an inability to trust the power of God which can operate in the midst of the harshest circumstances. An inability to see life and pain and hardship with God at the center, meaning God can turn this evil into good. The cross is a prime example for this, right? The cross. I mean, think about it. Here on the cross, I'm sure many people would have said, what a waste. What is the meaning of this? The most meaningless and unnecessary and wasteful and perverse suffering. Here is a man who has not done anything wrong. Not a single thing. The purest, the most holiest. And they beat him. And they put him on the cross. And he died in shame and agony. Shed his blood. What is the meaning of this? See, people who did not understand the cross in the beginning might have spoken like that. But look at what God does. He takes that, the cross, the greatest, from one standpoint, from one perspective, the greatest evil done. People talk about how can evil, bad things happen to good people, right? That's a classic question, isn't it? How can bad things happen to good people? You know what the best answer for that is? The cross. The cross. The worst thing happened to the best, Jesus Christ. But God takes it, makes it the most powerful thing. Makes it the thing that brings salvation to all. God's ways are higher than our ways. God's ways we cannot understand, we cannot fathom until He finishes it. What we have to trust is He can do it. No pain, no hardship is meaningless. No suffering is meaningless. As look at 2 Corinthians 4:17. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 16 onwards, we'll read. Therefore we do not lose heart, even though our outward man is perishing, yet the inward man is being renewed day by day. 17. For our light affliction. Now this is a man with wisdom speaking. This is the Apostle Paul. If you want to read about his afflictions and his sufferings and his beatings and his shipwrecks and his persecutions, go to 2 Corinthians chapter 11. You'll read it. He's a man who suffered a lot. But look how he speaks. He speaks with divine wisdom. He says, for our light affliction. Wisdom is the ability to see what you're going through in light of a broader perspective, in light of the future. With God's eyes, he says, for our light affliction, which is but for a moment, is working for us. Everybody say working. It's not meaningless. It's working for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. He's comparing. You see, wisdom doesn't get caught up. A man who has wisdom, divine wisdom, Christian wisdom, doesn't get, so caught up with the suffering he's enduring, but he's able to see his even worst suffering in light of the eternal weight of glory, that this is going to work. Look at the word he used. It's working for us, he says. Not just after this we will have glory. The light affliction, which is but for a moment, is working. It is actually contributing. God will use the affliction itself to actually produce, as we saw in James 1. The testing of your faith produces. The light affliction, which is but for a moment, is working for us far more and exceeding eternal weight of glory. Only people with wisdom, Christian wisdom, can speak like this. And when we can't, it shows that we lack wisdom. One more thing about how we lack wisdom, and then I'll go to the solution. Even if we accepted truths, even if we accepted these things, I get it, and I accept it wholeheartedly. This is a good ending. I really value the development of inward character and becoming more like Jesus, and I really think that's important. I'm excited about that. And even if you say all that, to actually put this into practice on a day-to-day basis, is still going to involve crossing several other practical hurdles. On a daily basis, you're going to need daily guidance. You're going to need daily strength. Even when you know the truth, have you felt like, why does it feel like I'm not able to get through this day? Right? You need strength on a daily basis, guidance on a daily basis. Our problems are all different. Your problem is different from mine, and it's different from the other person. And we all have different complications. It's also complex and involves so many different kinds of decisions. And every day this is happening. How are we going to get through and actually put this into practice and move ahead? This Christian way I'm talking about. The answer for that is wisdom. James has found the one thing that solves everything. It's wisdom. Wisdom, the ancient world, they used to think of wisdom as the practical skill or practical ability with which you can solve the complex problems of life. That's wisdom. Wisdom covers it all. And that's why James talks about it. What we lack above all else then is wisdom. What we need above all else is wisdom. That's the main thing. That's why we're not able to sometimes put it into practice. It's not that our problem is too big. Yeah, it may be too big. That's not the main problem for you, my friend. It's not how much pain you're going through. Yeah, I don't want to speak light of it, but that's not the biggest problem we have. The biggest problem we have, the most important thing we lack is wisdom. You've got to see it that way. Then only you will want wisdom. Because God won't give wisdom to people who don't want it. I don't know, that's the way He works. He doesn't give it to people who don't want it. You read Proverbs, He says, you really got to go after wisdom. You've got to seek it above all else. And all these passages are there in Proverbs, how wisdom is crying out. And wisdom says, anyone who can come to me can come. But then the people have to want it. God won't force it down our throats. And so you got to realize that you want it. And if you realize that, my friend, you're making a very good decision, because the value of wisdom is so great. Look at Proverbs 8:11. Talks about the value of wisdom. Wisdom is better than jewels, and all that you may desire cannot compare with her. All that you may desire cannot compare with her. Proverbs 16:16. How much better to get wisdom than gold. To get understanding is to be chosen rather than silver. Wisdom is what we need.